And speaking of many things that mean nothing, the titles mean nothing, the women's titles, because there's two of them, and the SmackDown champion's going to Raw, and the Raw champion's going to SmackDown. So they're going to have to do a lateral handoff at some point, I guess. This is so confusing. But Rhea Ripley wrestled Zelina Vega on her home island. I don't know if that's the exact specific town.
It's where her family comes from.
Yes. And so she obviously got a huge pop, as she did the previous night on SmackDown, for being the hometown girl.
Huge doesn't really describe it. I mean,
well, yeah.
These are monster pops and monster cheering sections on these shows.
But again, also because of the tremendous wrestling legacy and tradition in Puerto Rico, these people are into it. And, you know, they love their baby faces. And Zelina, this was, I think, the best that I've seen her. And Rhea, even though she was wearing white, I'm not sure how I feel about Rhea Ripley in white now.
That seems to be her big match outfit, right? Or a big match color, I guess I should say.
I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, she could look good in a potato sack.
It hit me watching this. She wore white. The Usos wore white later on. Like, the heels are now wearing white and the baby faces wear black.
Well, that's what Rhea ought to save the white for when she actually does turn baby face, and then that subtle.
Hey, Zelina's family at ringside, they said her uncle wrestled Bruno Sammartino. Who is her uncle? I actually don't know this.
It would have to be some guy probably that in the late 60s, early 70s that broke in to do jobs in the Northeast, one would think, because it would have had to been in the Northeast. That's where they did television when Bruno was working. But I don't know whether he ever attained enough of a name where anybody would even know it today, which is maybe why they didn't mention it. But it's entirely possible. And especially there wouldn't be any TV floating around late 60s, early 70s, where people would be putting on have you seen the Twitter tributes to job guys where they put up like their beauty shot with their name and graphic for like 2 seconds? I don't think that guy would be on those either. So
what an incredible moment, though, of Zelina in the ring, you know, at the beginning and eventually at the end, but especially at the beginning, just the crowd reaction. And it would be almost impossible, I would think, for her not to be emotional in that moment. Her family's there. This place is just going nuts. It was quite the moment. One of the real special moments I think I've seen in quite a while, her reaction to that.
And thankfully, the flip-flop spot was explained in an article on pwinsider.com the next morning, folks, if you want to check it. But basically, Zelina goes out on the floor and gets a flip-flop from her mother and then throws it at Rhea Ripley, and the place explodes like she's just hit her in the face with a fucking pie. And apparently that is a traditional island thing down there that your mother will take, and I forget what there's a Spanish name for the shoes, but we'll take one of them and spank you with it if you get out of line. And the mothers in Puerto Rico are noted for them shoes. So it got a huge pop, and everybody else is like, what the fuck's going on here? But that's why. And again, this match, my God, they did big girl, little girl spots, just like I say, big guy, little guy spots. That's the way they built it. Zelina is quick and resourceful and fast and smaller, and Rhea is overpowering, but is not as fast and resourceful. And it worked. And Rhea, again, sells like a guy. The staggering, the wobbly legs, the facial expressions, little things. Or then when she's a heel, and she loved healing to people here. And she woman handled Zelina and roughed her up and, you know, really loved taunting the crowd and keeping the pace exactly right for the heat so that then Zelina could be all fiery on the comeback. It was very good, I thought. And Zelina made a comeback, hit a DDT, hit a 619, and hit that Meteora that I wouldn't want to take. I've seen, who else is it does the Meteora? There's several of the ladies that do it.
I forget.
But nevertheless, I haven't seen one yet that I would either want to give or want to take. I don't know how that either doesn't destroy your knees or fucking potato the recipient. But it looked great. 2 count. And then suddenly it was like Ripley said, okay, fuck it. I guess we got the emergency go home cue. Kicked her, grabbed her, hit her finish, the Riptide boom, 1, 2, 3. So that was a little abrupt. I was enjoying it. But otherwise than that, I thought they did a great job here. And it's obvious that Zelina was not going to, because she's in her hometown again. The same thing with Sammy in Montreal. They're booking for the world. So Rhea had just beat Charlotte. They've got long-term plans for her. Zelina wasn't going to win this, but they presented her as, I think, as credibly as she could have hoped for, and she did a great job. If this had been AEW, Zelina would have kicked the shit out of Ripley for 20 minutes, and then Ripley would have won on a fluke, and it would kill the whole goddamn deal. What do you think?
I thought this was a great match. I thought Zelina did great. Again, I talked about the emotion at the beginning, at the end. What do? You have the heel beat the hometown favorite. The heel leaves. You let the babyface get up and get that moment again at the end. And
yeah,
it really was a special moment. And it made you, it would be impossible, I think, to watch that and not root for Zelina Vega in that moment. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, but and notice they brought the music down after Rhea got out. They brought the music down, and just that was the people's cue to, okay, now we can show Zelina,
gave her the moment,
how much appreciation we have for what, who she is and what she did.
They wanted to pop and react for her, so they got the chance even though she didn't win, which for the long term probably isn't the right thing.
Right.
I had a lot of comments about the AEW women's division earlier. This is where I see the opposite. Rhea Ripley may be, if she's not my favorite wrestler today, she's in the top 3. Not favorite female wrestler, favorite wrestler.
Yeah.
I love watching her. The way she takes a DDT. Like, it's not just the way she gets almost so she lands on top of her head and falls. She also rolls her eyes. She also sells with her face. Everything she does, her whole body's in it. In a way that an athlete, she's an athlete. And a lot of people just look like they're going through routines in wrestling. A lot of people, they want to get in there and do what other people do. This is a pro wrestler. Rhea Ripley is on top of her game, and she is just so good and so young and so good. So when I say all those things about AEW, that AEW probably shouldn't even have a women's division, it's not that there isn't good women's wrestling out there. Rhea Ripley's as good as it gets. And I love the opening match, and I can't wait for you to honestly watch it.
All right.
But that's the problem. The bad people doing it outnumber the good people doing it.
The bad actors out there.
But Rhea Ripley is just exceptional as a professional wrestler, and Zelina Vega did great here, and it was an emotional match, and tremendous. And the crowd is still as up as they were for the opening match.